As boat owners, our biggest fear is making a big investment just for something to sit. When it comes to spending money, everything becomes questionable. But I'm here to assure you that this isn't too good to be true.
I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride.
Sure, it takes work, but the shallow sacrifice adds depth to the achievement. And that right there is why every family deserves a boat. Well, good morning. Welcome back to Life by the Bow. As you guys can see, it's a beautiful morning down here in the Florida Keys, and we're actually gearing up. We're gonna go out today and see what we can get into. The wind, you know, same story as always. It's just been kicking for these past couple months, I would say, down here in the Florida Keys. And you know, we woke up this morning and it seems like there's a little bit of a break in the weather. And what's good about the wind blowing so is not too many boats are out on the water. So being that we're here on the water, we can wake up on a morning like today, kind of judge the conditions. And you know, for the bay boat, I would say these are conditions good enough to get out there. And just having the baby and being so busy with everything, I'm not really dialed in on bait. So we're actually gonna go and buy it today. Stephanie and the baby are sleeping. We're gonna leave them here at the house just to relax and get some sleep, grow. And we're gonna go out there, see if we can catch something. And you guys will see them later on. All right. So right now, we are in Tavernier Creek. This is one of the main channels that you guys see us always cutting through. And basically this will take you from the ocean side over into the bay side. And once you get into Tavernier Creek coming from the ocean side, there's a little sub channel back in here, and there's a bait and tackle shop called Angler Eddie's on the water. So if you guys are ever on the ocean side and say, for example, you have a big tower boat, you need to buy some bait, you need some last minute tackle, you can bring your boat up inside of here and buy whatever you need. Best part is they sell Avail performance gear here too. So I think what we're gonna do is just buy some ballyhoo, get some blue crabs, because I think what we're gonna do is try to get in the water and see if we can catch a hogfish, just because it's May and hogfish season is open now in addition to grouper. What's going on? So this is Eddie.
How you doing? Good morning.
The guy in the name, Angler Eddie's Bait and Tackle. How you guys doing? Everything good?
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Let me see if I can clean you guys out. Come on. So what's everything that you guys have? Pilchers, pinfish?
Pilchers, pinfish, gogs in the sailfish seasons.
Shrimp, crabs?
Not a lot of pinfish, but usually mostly pilchers.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm asking Eddie to pick me out the smallest crabs that he can potentially get. As you can see, that is just a very, very small blue crab right there. What makes the blue crab significant is when you're catching hogfish, yeah, perfect. The hogfish can consume the entire crab rather than chewing on it. So sometimes when you have a really big blue crab, the hogfish can't fit the entire crab inside of his mouth. But a hogfish will eat a shrimp much faster than a blue crab, so a shrimp is also a really good bait to use on a hogfish. The problem is all the grunts, yellowtail, snapper species, they'll eat the shrimp before the hogfish does. But the hogfish is the only one that has the infrastructure in its mouth that can actually break apart the crab. So a lot of the picker fish leave the blue crab alone, whereas the hogfish will go in there and basically start chewing on him whole. Look at that. You got Avail gear right when you walk in. Come on now, it doesn't get any better than that. It does get better than that. She's here. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good to see you, good, good. Can't complain. What's that? Great.
Good.
Baby's great.
Good.
It's okay, it's open to the world now.
Okay,
I
good.
appreciate it though. How are you guys doing? Everything good?
I recognized you.
How are you?
We watch your show all the time.
I appreciate that very much.
Oh my gosh, we always watch. I love your wife. I love
Thank
her
you.
Cooking. I love
She
her
would
cooking.
she would be with me right now, but she just had our baby, so.
You had a baby?
Yeah, we did.
Oh my
we
gosh,
did.
may I ask what kind? What
Gender?
Gender.
She was a girl. She's a girl.
Oh, I had a little girl.
She was actually half monkey, half human. Thank you, Megan. So they just hooked me up right there. That's why you guys need to come to Angleretti's right there. Thank you so much,
Have a
Megan.
great day.
All right, I'll let you know how things go. So even if you can't find what you're looking for at Angleretti's, they always have lots of love to give, and they're some of our favorite people down here in the Keys. But we're actually cutting through over to the Bayside because on a day like today, when the winds are a little heavier, we have a pretty far run, about 20 miles. It's just gonna make that run that much smoother just because the islands are actually protecting the bay, essentially like a barrier. So we'll have a nice, calm, smooth ride. But my goal for today is just to get kind of isolated, you know, fish some spots a lot of people don't necessarily want to travel too far in order to get to. So we're gonna get way out of reach and just hit some areas that I've never hit before and hopefully find a couple new hogfish spots.
Take my hand and come with me because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. I say you look so fine that I really want to make you mine.
Look at this, baby. So we went from the first story to the second story here. And like I was talking about, just up here, trying to find that discolored water because obviously that's going to lead us to the patch reefs. You know, as you guys can see, we have this aqua blue water. And then if we look over to the left right here, we start to see some discoloration, even a big old coral head right there. That's another thing that's beneficial about being up here in the tower. But personally, that's a little too shallow for me. I'm looking for something around the 10-foot range to hopefully find a bigger hogfish. But a lot of times groupers hang out in those settings too. So we're gonna be looking. We're gonna see what we can come up with. So this stuff right here is essentially exactly what we're looking for. As you can see, like I was saying, there's all types of browns and yellows and green mixed in here. And it's just a mixture between fans, hard bottom, and coral. And that is our prime hogfish habitat. So something that's really cool about this Garmin trolling motor here, say for example, you forget your remote or the batteries die in the remote, there's an anchor button on the trolling motor itself. So no remote needed. All right, so something that I always like doing is freshening up my tackle. Just got a nice little jig head there. It's got some lead on it, obviously, because that's gonna help sink that crab. And then we have 30-pound mono tied to a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. And then something that's really cool is we actually have a new product on availedgear.com. In addition to our rods, got some fishing scissors now, which make things a lot easier than carrying around pliers if you don't like carrying pliers. But now we're gonna pick out the smallest crab that we could find, and we're basically gonna go right through the side of his shell, very slowly, just working that through there. We don't want to force it, we just want to work it really slow, because if you do that, you're going to crack his shell and he's going to die much quicker. And as you can see, he's hanging off perfect off that jig, and then a hogfish is just going to come up and get him whole, and we're going to stick that hook right in his mouth. All right, let's go get him.
So when hopping in the water, the first thing I noticed is the visibility is amazing. But the reason why we're hand lining for these fish rather than spearing them is because here in the Upper Keys, you can't spear fish legally within 3 miles. So right here, we're probably about 2 miles offshore, and in the area that we're in, there's a lot of big hogfish because they get left alone. And typically when you get on these patch reefs and you find a lot of small females, there's a couple big males that aren't lurking far behind. So the key is to fit in with all the locals here on the patch reef and just keep your head on a swivel while enjoying just looking at the corals, fans, and all the sea life. So I eventually come across what seems to be a nice size hogfish, but as you can see, very slowly I just lowered the crab. And since there's 2 hogfish here, this is actually a really great scenario because it causes the bigger hogfish to be a little more aggressive. But these fish, in my opinion, are a lot smarter than we think, because he takes the crab and just leaves the jig head hanging outside of his mouth. So I'm just being patient and hoping that his buddy gets a little more aggressive, because that's going to force him to swallow that crab in the jig in order for me to get a hook set. Now, just so you guys can get an idea based on how long this actually takes, in editing we fast forwarded about 5 minutes and finally that jig is in his mouth. So as you can see, I yanked it as hard as I could and we got a hogfish on. What I'm trying to do right now is keep as much tension on him as possible, but the fact that we're hand lining this fish, we have to create our own drag with our fingertips. But just like groupers, hogfish will actually rock up, but they don't have the ability to flare out their gills, so they're very easy to pull out of these holes. So I just dove down, put my hand inside of there, and very easily just worked him out of the hole. But as you can see, he just choked that crab, locking his jaws open, which is the biggest reason why this was such a short fight, because with his jaws locked open like that, it really limits his ability to swim.
I don't know if it's legal, so I'm just trying to be really delicate with them. Hogfish are really delicate, so I want to make sure since he's borderline, as soon as I bring him up, I put him. I think I counted 7 of them. We're gonna try to get a quick measure. See what the deal is with him. I always like taking care of him the best I possibly can by keeping him wet and ultimately just keeping him in the water for as long as possible, because this guy's not legal. I want to make sure he has a very high success rate. Now the limit is 1 per person. I think that's just because they're struggling down here in the Florida Keys, so this is one of my favorite things to do, and I want to make sure that this is something I can come and do with my daughter one day. So he's actually 16 inches. As you can see, the fork of his tail is past 16 inches, but I think what I'm actually going to do with this guy is I'm going to stick him in the live well, because if we find a bigger one, we're going to release him. That was really cool. I'd say we were in the water for a total of 5 minutes. I don't think I've ever had it happen that fast before. And this is something I want to pass on to my YouTube audience, but I want to make sure if you guys are coming out here and doing this, we're taking care of these fish and we're being delicate with them the same exact way that we just were, because they're struggling down here in the Florida Keys. So make sure we take care of what we got.
Pretty amazing, right? Since the beginning of my professional career, I've always admired the hard work that it takes to capture the ocean. But unfortunately, we've lost touch with reality as we desaturate the world with mindless scrolling. On the flip side, there's something to be said about effort. You know, the kind of effort that it takes to get to a place like this. It's not easy, and it shouldn't be, because the challenge of boating and fishing creates good character, and good character is what's needed for this world to avail. Ultimately, we should never settle for less because everybody deserves a world that they can touch and feel.
You know, it's pretty unbelievable how much life there is on some of these Florida Keys patch reefs out here. You know, there's really not too many places in the world where you can just go 2-3 miles offshore and just experience something like this down here in the Florida Keys. But, you know, another thing that I love about this is, you know, say for example, dad's a sportsman, he wants to catch a fish, he can get in the water, but at the same exact time, the kids can jump in, they can enjoy all the snorkeling. And say, for example, you have someone on the boat that doesn't necessarily like fishing. You know, just being out here, it's just beautiful. It's one of the most relaxing things in the world.
Now right here, you can really see the importance of that smaller size crab, because as soon as I dropped it down to the bottom, you could see in the top left corner there's about 4 or 5 other hogfish. So just like I had stated earlier, more competition causes these fish to be more aggressive. So with that tiny little crab, he was able to swallow it whole, giving me the perfect hook set. And I don't know what it was with these hogfish today, but the fights were extremely lethargic. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that hogfish are most active during the mornings, and into the afternoon, they kind of stop feeding. They'll hide back up inside of the fans. So maybe he was just getting in another feed before he relaxed for the rest of the day. But something I love about hand lining these fish is you can see that hook is barely in the corner of his mouth. So when you're underwater, you can actually see the behaviors, how the fish is reacting, allowing you to make the necessary adjustments versus rod and reel, where you potentially may have put too much pressure on the fish and pulled the hook out of his mouth.
Got another one, baby. Look at how he just choked that crab right there. And that's exactly what you want. You want those small ones. So you can see right there, someone got his tail. And it whacked him. That was textbook. That's exactly what we wanted right there. Give him a quick little measure. He is also 16 inches. So let's figure out which one is bigger. We'll release the small one. Watch how lively he is when we release him. That's a really big pro about sticking them in the live well, because when you let them go, when they're still kind of exhausted, sometimes they can get eaten by a barracuda or a shark. But the fact that he was sitting there in the live well, we took the bigger one. That's the way to do it, in my opinion. All right, we got a really nice red grouper underneath me. I'm pretty positive that he's legal. Grouper season just opened up in addition to hogfish, so it'd be pretty sweet if we could get a hogfish hit a grouper. But a lot of the times these groupers, they'll just stage up inside of these rocks like this one is below me. So we're gonna drop down a crab real quick and see if we can get him to eat.
So that grunting noise that you guys hear is from these guys, hence where they get the name the grunt. But the grouper catches wind real quick and he comes in hot and just devours the crab. I set the hook real quick and I kind of take my time because I don't know exactly where this fish is gonna go. As you can see, he has 2 different holes to choose from, and I'm trying to make sure that he just stages up inside of there and flares out his gills, because if he wraps himself around this rock or say a fan, he'll break the line. The best thing to do is take a dive like I'm doing here and just really try to figure out where exactly the fish is staged up. And in a situation like this, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because you don't want to put too much tension on him to the point where he breaks the line, but just enough to keep that hook set inside of his mouth. Once I put my head up inside of there, he did not like my presence, so he tried to make another run, but he decided that wasn't a good move, so he went right back up inside the rock. So I eased up on the tension just a little bit. Unfortunately, the jig slipped right out of his mouth.
Woo! We literally almost had him. I'm gonna put on another crab, and I'm gonna see if we could drop down to see if he'll eat again.
So we got the crab going back on the hook, and he looks perfect. So we're gonna drop him right back down inside of the grouper's hole. And one thing that's great about these red groupers is they're not the smartest, I do have to admit. So he comes back out, gives me another shot. This time I'm trying to just give him a little more tension just so that way he doesn't slip off. Now there's something about both of these holes that he doesn't like because he keeps on trying to go back and forth. And I think the biggest thing is he can't lock his gills up inside of this rock here. But he still has the advantage because my oxygen is low. So I went right back up to the top to take another breath. So this time I came in at an angle just trying to prevent that fishing line from rubbing up against that rock. Ultimately, the more time that he spends working up inside of there, the more likely he is to wear through this leader. So I'm trying my hardest to keep the tension, but I don't want that hook to slip out again. But right here, he decides to make another move, trying to make away from the hole, but he just knows that there is nowhere to go. Luckily, I was able to tire him out, steer his head away from the rock, and make my move back to the boat.
Oh, that was a wild ride right there, baby. We got him. I think he's definitely legal too. I want to make sure he doesn't get away. We get a good grip on him. Stick him in the live well real quick.
He was barely hooked too. Check that out right there. But with red groupers, they have to be 20 inches to keep. See if we got some grouper here. Since it's May and they're in season. When we lay him flat, he is 23 inches, baby. We got grouper for dinner. Coolest thing in the world right there, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love catching fish on rod and reel, but it's an entirely different experience when you actually get in the water with these fish. You see their behaviors. Sure, you could go down there with the spear gun. Legally, where we're at, we can't spearfish, but it's a whole nother animal to go down there and wrangle them on light tackle like we just did. I just think that's so cool. And you know, you come out here with your family, you do this, and at the end of the day, if you don't catch anything, you're still out here snorkeling around, seeing all the fish. That is not a bad little bycatch to some hogfish. I'll take it, man. Beautiful. You know, it's pretty crazy. You don't really need much sometimes, and you know, it's honestly something that I think people need to start paying attention to now more so than ever. You know, ever since COVID, there's more boats on the water today than there ever has been, and you know, we see it year after year. Our regulations just keep on getting more and more strict. It happened to the hogfish years ago. Obviously, red grouper, I believe, is still the same.
as this year as it was last year, but now black groupers are only 2 per boat. And you know, I guess that was kind of my goal behind this entire video, is just to show everyone that, hey, you can go out there and you can have a phenomenal time out on the boat with friends and family. Obviously today I was solo, but I like doing solo trips every once in a while. But ultimately, this summer we encourage you guys, you know, don't make it always so much about filling the boat and getting your limit. If the fish are caught, great. If not, no big deal. Enjoy what you got, and in our case, when you have a backyard like this, it really is hard to not enjoy it.
So it's been a little while since you guys have seen me in the kitchen, and I do want to say it's good that I brushed my teeth today because doing that is so hard lately. You're getting up, you're feeding the baby, you're running around, time is so limited, but overall, she's been an incredible baby. She's sleeping like 4-hour strides at this time, so it's great. So I get some rest. I'm not feeling exhausted like I anticipated. So motherhood has turned out to be a lot easier than I anticipated so far. I know there's challenges up ahead. So something that I have been craving lately is a little sweetness. So I'm going to be cooking some coconut fish, encrusted fish, with a mango salsa on top. It's simple, delicious, and sweet with salty. So all I'm gonna go ahead and do right now is mix together my breadcrumbs, all the ingredients, the coconut flakes. Oh, hope you like coconut, Clay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just add some salt, cumin. I'm using about half a teaspoon of this. Then we're gonna do a whole teaspoon of paprika, and then garlic powder. You can never have too much garlic powder either. Now I'm gonna mix all of this up, put together my egg wash. Oops, dropped an eggshell. Don't wanna do that. And pretty simple. All I'm gonna do now is just coat my fish with egg, dip it in the breadcrumbs, stick it on my pan, and then bake it in the oven. So now that my fish is done, I'm gonna go ahead and mix my salsa. And I have some lime already squeezed in the bowl. I'm adding some tomatoes, onions, cilantro, jalapeno, and of course our mango, and then some salt. Once it's all mixed together, you just add it on top of your fish, and that is all that it takes. But with that mango salsa on top,
That's really, really good. We're not huge fish people, so we always like recipes that really dress it up. And just a combination between that onion, lime, mango,
coconut
salt,
flakes,
coconut flakes. There's so many different
flavors,
tropical flavors going on there. It just makes this recipe just very delicious. But not only do you guys get to see the scenery, but you get to see us catch the fish and just put together stuff like this. And it's a blast, you know. I had such a good time out there, just like kind of being in the water, relaxing, snorkeling around all by myself.
I'm definitely gonna be jumping back into the videos.
I'm gonna jump that piece of food off your face.
Oh, you too?
Right I can't get it off. What is that?
It's probably the mango.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what yours is.
As long as I don't have baby poop on my face, we're good. But such a good time, guys. We're so excited for the summer. Lastly, if you guys want to support us, support our brand, support our family, we'd greatly appreciate it if you guys went to availgear.com. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you all. And we will see you 2 weeks from today.
Yeah. Bye, guys.